What's going on? Hey, thanks everybody for joining a Walk Through the Mud Conversations. I am joined by
Tawanna Wilson.
Hey, Tawanna Wilson.
Yes.
My name is Michael, and thanks again for joining us. Tawanna.
Yes.
I'm excited about shooting this podcast because you and I had a conversation about something that's very near and dear to my heart. Mm-hmm. It's forgiveness, and specifically with your dad.
Yes.
That was crazy. We had a crazy conversation about that and realized that we have a lot in common. Or at least I realized that we have a lot in common.
Yeah,
I'm
really
not sure
did
how much
in that moment. Yeah.
Yeah, you took out of that. But I wanted to just jump right back into that conversation because to me, learning how to forgive is essential for not being stuck in your past life, right? If you can learn how to let go of things, I think you can move forward in life. I spent so much time stuck on who did it and why they did it and when they did it and for how long they did it for, that I could never just break out of this, I guess, pattern of you know, it was a prison, basically, you know? And so trying to move out of that into making. Yeah, really. And trying to move out of that into freedom was a big deal for me. So just anyway, we'll back up to that. Share with me, you know, just a little bit of your story. Why don't you start with what you're doing right now? Actually, we're meeting where?
At my job, but the way we connected is because I am a licensed therapist and I am the proprietor of Black Butterfly Counseling. And so I do this work in the community of helping people on their own healing journey so that they can heal, grow, and ultimately fly to be their best selves.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? That is how we connected, which was dope also. But tell me a little bit about, you know, just your journey in the therapy, or maybe there's a story or two that you can talk about that I know you can't, you know, give a bunch of information.
Right. But I think with my own journey with forgiveness and kind of doing this work, I think when you think about doing the work, right? Ultimately, when you start to do this work means there's somebody you need to forgive, right? Living means there's someone that we need to forgive. And so that kind of just became a poignant topic in my life when I started on this path of wanting to become a therapist. And I was actually in my master's program, and a part of that program is doing like mock sessions. And so I was in a mock session, and the young lady I was interviewing at the time started talking about her own relationship with her dad and her own personal daddy issues. And it was kind of like instantly there. Up until that point, I think I hadn't really addressed it a lot. I think growing up as a young person, it was just something like we were talking about, just kind of like my own secret pain. It was just something I just carried, right? And just try to act like it wasn't there. You know, if I didn't talk about it, it didn't bother me, right? But
touch on that a little bit. I don't mean to interrupt you, but because I think that is a common misconception is that if I don't talk about it or I act like it's not there, then it's not there. I've always said that there's a big difference between working through something and letting it go and then just ignoring something altogether. So just speak to that a little bit.
Well, I think I got really good at ignoring it. You know, I think it was something that I would just tell myself I'm okay with. Right? I couldn't change it, so I just told myself I was okay with it. And I really wasn't okay with it. And there was instances throughout my life that I look back now where I was really actually triggered in certain situations, you know, especially not having a father figure, you know. A lot of people know their origin story in some way, even if it didn't work out, you know, with mom and dad, they kind of know where they came from. And I didn't have that, you know, and so that was something that did eat at me quietly, and I didn't know how to address it. I just kind of just made it a part of my identity. It's just who I was, the girl without a dad, you know? And I kind of filled in these gaps along the way, right? When you don't know that story, you kind of tell your own self the story. You fill in the gaps yourself. And so through that story, I told myself I wasn't enough, right? That the person that was supposed to be there for me didn't show up. So I wasn't worthy, right? And those were the scripts I told myself, not out loud, but secretly, quietly, right? And those negative thoughts and that self-talk.
So how did that play out in your life? Like, I mean, you just kind of briefly touched on it, but how does it play out in your life? What are the triggers, you know, or what are the things that kind of set you off?
Well, I think definitely just looking at when you're interacting with friends and family and you see, you know, this nucleus household, right? The mom, the dad, those are things where I question, wonder, you know, what's my origin story? How come I don't have a dad, right? How come I don't know this other part of me? So those would be those instances. I think how it translated into my relationships, you know, not having healthy relationships with men, not having healthy role models, you know, not being very trusting. I had to re-examine those. And so I think when I was sat in that mock therapy room, that all came kind of flooding, you know, as this young lady's telling her story, I began to cry because I hadn't really addressed that myself, you know, so that was awkward, you know.
Man, I feel like I laugh not because it's funny, but because I relate. I know that world.
It comes up. You don't plan for it, but it'll come up on you.
So I grew up without my dad, but also my mom was kind of not emotionally present, you know, like she was there and I could see her, she was physically there, but it was not, but also there were things that, you know, a mom should do that you would think like, hey, I like one of the things that was weird to me is that when I became an adult, it was always weird for me to hug my mom. And I used to think about that and I'm like, man, that should not be a weird thing, you know, but it was weird for me. It was weird for me to, you know, be like, hey, I love you. I never called her mom. I called her by her first name because when we were kids, she didn't allow us to call her mom. She said, call me by my first name. And I don't know where it came from, but as far as like why she, but that affects you as a kid because you're not identifying her as mom, you know,
create
you're
some distance.
You're identifying her as just another person, you know, and so it's crazy how those things just kind of pop up, you know, and you kind of are stuck in those moments where you're like, whoa, I
wasn't ready for that.
What am I feeling right now?
Oh, that was an emotion. Wait, go back, go back.
Stuff it back.
No.
It's
not right
the time. Stuff it back down. This is not it. Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
No, seriously.
Man, I relate to that. So what was like your journey through that?
I mean, you know, growing up, I really struggled with this idea of forgiveness. You know, we weren't really raised initially in a religious household, you know? And so for me, forgiveness was something God did. God forgives. I don't. You know what I'm saying?
God forgives. I don't.
I don't. You know, you get one time. You get one time, right?
Okay.
Seriously, used to be super petty. I'm growing though, right?
I'm glad you used to be. I'm still super petty. Like, my wife will tell you,
man,
like, bruh.
Man, it's okay, right? But literally, I think that's what helped me to start thinking about this because I think through doing the work, you know, I started to look at forgiveness. Think of it like a backpack, you know? And so if you go through life collecting a backpack on your back and you think of these wrongs as rocks, and every time somebody wrongs you, you just keep adding it to the backpack, right? Every time someone cuts you off, right? Someone's inconsiderate, someone does you dirty, right? And you just keep adding these rocks. And then the big ones, right? When people really hurt you, right? Those boulders you take on, right? And it just weighs you down, right? And so I just looked at forgiveness as this way of like, not for them, but for me, right? To release myself of that weight so that I can move freely, right? To let go of those rocks, right? And so it was something I had to, one, acknowledge, right? Where does this pain come from? Where does this hurt come from, right? Who was the person who hurt me? What's the situation that hurt me? Why do I feel this resentment or anger, right? It really acknowledge those emotions and where they came from and how they've affected me.
Yeah, right? I mean, that's the thing is like, I think naming the hurt is something that I talk about in my curriculum, and it's called Beyond the Hurt. And for me, the hardest part of learning how to forgive was to start the process. I didn't know where to start. You know, like I heard all kind of things like, oh, you just have to eat crow, and oh, you have to, you know, just go say sorry to everybody, and oh, there's all these ideas around forgiveness until I sat down. I was like, what does it look like? What does it actually mean? How does it translate into a physical or emotional move forward? That was always the thing for me. And so naming the hurt was a big deal for me because I felt like I never wanted to just say what it was. I felt like if I said it, it was giving it power. And there's like this the Christianese, and I'm very much a Christian, very much believe in God, love God, but I think sometimes we over spiritualize things, and I think that there's this Christianese about like, if you speak it, it's going to become. And so I thought if I spoke this, then it's going to actually
Talk
be.
about this truth, right?
It's going to be, instead of just saying like, the Bible does say, speak those things that are not as though they were. And I understand that, but I'm not speaking it into existence. All I'm doing is acknowledging that this has happened to me, and then feeling the feels and sitting with that emotion and understanding that the thing for me to kind of work through and work out in my life,
Right.
So
and
I don't know if
sometimes
you
that's
can,
scary, to once I unleash this,
Yeah.
once I take the lid off of it, then what do I do
then
with
I got to
it?
deal with it. Yeah.
Right? I got to look in the mirror and actually face this ugly thing, right? And I think that's where, I feel this call to really help people with that journey, I think it's not necessarily something you can do on your own all the time, right? And I'm one of those people who can think I can just work it out eternally, right?
You know how many people actually think that? You know how many people actually are just like, oh yeah, I'm gonna figure it out. Oh no, I got it.
Let me sit with it for a little bit.
Let me sit with it, and I'm gonna just do it. Like, you could just get it on your own. It took me years. Sorry, like, I'm getting triggered right now. No, it took me years of therapy. I was in therapy and trying to understand why. I sat in a therapy session one time, and my therapist was like, name 5 good things about yourself. And I grew up without my dad too, so worthlessness was a huge part of my emotional scars.
Right.
And
baggage.
Name 5 good things about yourself. And I literally sat there in a therapy session for 1 hour and could not name one thing. And I mean, like, and my therapist did not give up. He was just like, nope, we're gonna do this. And I just literally could not name one thing. And then as we gradually went, I was able to start naming things about myself that I liked, as we continue to do the work. And we would do work, and then we come back to that. And he'd be like, okay, name something. And then we do some more work, and we come back to that. Okay, name something else. That was a hard process, but I would have never been able to do that on my own.
Challenge yourself in that way.
I would have never known that I needed that. I would have never considered that.
And I think that's the beauty of therapy. It doesn't have to be come lay on the couch and you're just going to pour all your problems. It can be that. So that's part of it too.
Come lay on the couch.
But I think the way that we are now exploring therapy and taking the stigma out of it, is that it can be whatever you need it to be, right? Absolutely. It can be non-traditional. It can be where I come to you. It can be telehealth. But it's really using that person, that coach, that mentor, somebody who's going to help hold up that mirror and challenge you to go there where you don't want to go. Give you the tools and the skills to do that, right? I'm not the expert on you. You're the expert on you. I'm just going to help you work through that journey.
I'm not the expert on you. That's fire.
Yeah.
I've been doing this for a long time.
I have my moments.
So talk, if you're cool with it, talk a little bit about your dad and working through that and where the relationship is now, if there's any.
Well, that's a great thing, because I think that was probably one of the challenges, is that, with forgiveness, sometimes we think we are going to get that apology, right? We're going to get that moment, that reconciliation with that person where, there's this aha, where they understand you, they acknowledge that hurt, and they say sorry, right?
And if that doesn't happen.
Then what do you do, right? Where you don't have this moment, right? Where you feel understood, where you feel hurt. And that's kind of where I was. I currently do not have a relationship with my father. That was never something that actually happened for me. Not something I necessarily pursued, but I still needed to release that, find forgiveness for this person that ultimately helped give me life. You know what I'm saying? I wouldn't be here today without that person's influence in that way. And so I think that was something that I had to acknowledge, is that I'm not going to get the sorry or maybe even understand the why that person wasn't there. But I had to let that go. I had to let that rock go. And so that was my process of forgiveness.
What was something that was practical for you to let that rock go? Like if you're talking to our audience right now, what is a practical thing that they can do to let that rock go?
I mean, I think for me, it was definitely a choice, right? It was a choice. I mean, it's not something that there's like a magic wand, right? It's not something that you just wake up and you're like, all right, I'm all healed from that, right? It was a choice, and it's a choice I constantly make today. I wake up, and when I'm triggered or where memories come up or I feel like that, those negative thoughts, I have to remember, I'm choosing to forgive this. I'm choosing to let this go. I'm choosing peace over my life for this situation, for this person, for this story. And I'm letting go of resentment.
Yeah.
And so that's something I have to recognize and then willingly do daily.
Yeah, you know, the thing that I consider in situations like that is that when I was going through it, it was the same thing for me. I had to make a choice every single day. I had to make a choice to say I forgive. But the thing about it is it was so easy for me not to forgive. Unforgiveness was like second nature because I had been doing it for so long. You know,
Right.
like I was good at it.
Right.
You know?
Writing people off.
But forgiving, I was so good at writing people off, bro. But forgiving was hard for me.
Yeah.
And it still sometimes is because, like, you know, even as much as I've learned how to forgive and as much work as I've done around that, I still have more experience unforgiving than I do actually forgiving.
sure.
You know? And so I'm like, it took a minute for me to exercise that muscle, for me to work that out. And so I guess my encouragement would just be, don't give up because it's hard one day or 2 days or a month, you know, in a row. It's hard. It's okay to just be where you're at. It's okay for it to just suck today, you know, and it's okay to live in that. And it's not okay to stay stuck in it though, you know, and
that's the choice of it all.
Yeah, that's the choice. The choice is that you say, hey, I'm gonna.
Today wasn't good.
Yeah.
Today did not go well, right? But tomorrow will be better.
But tomorrow will be better.
And I'll make this choice again tomorrow.
Yes, and you got to make the choice to do that.
Yeah.
That's
No,
fun.
forgiveness is hard.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not an innate skill, right? Humans by nature, right, are not forgiving,
We're not
right?
forgivers.
But we are ultimate benefiters of hurting each other, right?
Yeah.
We know how to do that really well. And it's
Very
because we
well.
come from our own perspectives, our own lived experiences, our own hurts and wounds, right? And so intentionally or unintentionally, we hurt each other. And so there's always going to be this need or room to forgive, right? And so once we get better at that, right, imagine how much better this world would be.
Yeah, absolutely. Man, if you could leave the audience with just one nugget of inspiration, one, you know, counselor, you know, inspired theme. I know I'll put you on the spot.
I know, right?
But what would that be?
I mean, I think around this idea of forgiveness, I think, again, it's just a reminder that it's for you. It's not for other people. It is a choice that you make to free yourself, to choose peace daily. And I want that for everybody, to be able to choose to walk freely through this life, right? And so I would encourage you, if you hadn't yet, if this anything in this talk today stirred up something in you, to go ahead and examine that. And if you can, reach out, ask for help, because help is available.
That's so fire. So tell the audience where they can get a hold of your services or even the nonprofit that you're involved in.
Yes, you can find me in a lot of ways. Again, my counseling platform is Black Butterfly Counseling. You can find us on Instagram. You can find us on the web. Webpage is still in development, but you can find me there. You could also find me doing work with my nonprofits, which is Phenomenal She. We are a mentoring organization for young girls to mentor and educate and empower. And then you could also find me doing classes. I do meditation at the Tribe Lab every fourth Sunday. You can find us out in Federal Way. So really finding ways to heal and help the community grow.
Nice.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Tawanna, I appreciate you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming, and thanks for watching this episode. I appreciate y'all. All right. Peace. That was dope.
That's good?
Yeah.
All right. Did
that
we
was so
recreate
fire.
it?
We recreated it. It was so fire. Yes.
I don't need permission to start again. I'm not just the wound, I'm where I begin. So I let it fall, bit by bit, took my own hand and sat with it.